SoSo Juv, and we in the building, and welcome to another episode of the My 5 Cents podcast. Let me go ahead and introduce the cast of characters. To my that way, we have HLS.
Habitual line step in the building. What's up, everybody?
What's going on, man?
Oh man, first one of the new year. I'm ready.
Let's do it. And to my that way, we have the logical genius.
What's up, everyone? The logical one is in the building, ready for a new episode, new year. Let's go. Let's get it.
Let's go and let's get it. And for those of y'all that haven't been here in a while, this is the My 5 Cents podcast, the best kept secret in podcasting, the only podcast that brings on a guest, builds their credibility, and turns them into a judge as we discuss the 5 cents on the topic of the week. And what is the topic for this week, HLS?
You know, fun fact, I forgot all about this show. So I had to ask you the
New
topic.
Year, same stuff.
Not surprised.
But the topic for today, and this is going to be a good one. Why do men stay silent in abuse?
Yes, and the person that's going to help us decipher this has spent years focusing her work around the nervous system, safe touch, and helping people feel regulated in their bodies. Traveling the world and experiencing different cultures has shaped how she sees people, systems, and patterns. In her life's journey, she has come across many men who have experienced assault, threats, false accusations, public humiliation, and more. She has seen firsthand how these experiences shape mental health, relationships, confidence, and sense of safety. She believes men are deeply valuable, deeply sensitive, and deeply capable of greatness. A man's humanity deserves to be honored, protected, and spoken about with clarity and care. She says her movement exists to give men visibility, voice, and dignity. She says men need love too. Please welcome to the show, Kat Anna. Welcome.
What's up,
Hi,
Kat?
guys. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to talk to you guys tonight.
Oh no, thank you so much
Excited to have you.
Yes, the pleasure is ours. And let me start you with the icebreaker. Kat, what is your superpower and how has it assisted you in your journey?
I think my superpower is my big heart. I think it allows me to have a huge capacity to hold people, make them feel safe, see into them and see the best of them, and give them just an unlimited source of safety and compassion that lets them just feel seen and heard and loved and safe.
Yeah, so Kat, in reading your bio, I think for me, how did you get to this place? Looking at you, and yeah, I might be stereotyping a little bit. I just wouldn't think that you would go towards the realm of men's support, right? You seem like you're, from what I've read of your website, your bio, how did we get on this journey, or how did we get on this road to where we are even having this topic or conversation about reasons why men stay silent about abuse?
Yeah, that's a very good question because it was rather unexpected. About 5 years ago, I opened a healing center in the small town where I live in Ontario, Canada. And I wanted to help people heal from their traumas, from their pain, from chronic pain, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I believe that you have to look at the whole person because everything is connected and we're just a whole being. We're not just organs, we're not just feelings or thoughts, everything's connected. And so I opened this healing center and I'd been working on myself. And I was using like 12 different healing modalities, combining all different cultures and like ancient healing and everything kind of natural and holistic. And who started coming through the doors were men. And it was very unexpected. And I learned very quickly that men experience safety through physical touch. So one of the things I do, like during most of my treatments, is I will hold a person's face when they're lying on the treatment table, like just from behind them, and I'll put my hands on their face. And what started happening is like 80-90% of the men started crying. And they started sharing their stories of like, wow, like I can't remember the last time I felt this safe, or I'm missing my mom who passed away, or like I'm in this marriage that's been disconnected for 20 years and I haven't been held in a very long time. And they started sharing their pain and their stories because I just made them feel safe. and made them feel like they could. And I think sometimes it's also easier to share your pain with a stranger than it is with the people that know you, because you're afraid of being judged or what they're going to think or who they're going to tell. And here I am, just a strange lady, and they could just feel like they could trust me. So I just felt very called. I used to say responsible, but I don't, that's heavy to have that responsibility. So I try not to say that, but initially it just felt very heavy. I feel called to share their stories. I feel called to speak on their behalf, because a lot of the times men don't get to have a voice. And I found that almost half of the men that were coming here are in abusive relationships or have been in the past. And a lot of the times men don't realize that the way they're being treated is actually abuse, because we typically think of abuse as just physical abuse, bruises, right?
Mhm.
And for men, it's very different. For men, yes, that is a part of it that's also not spoken about. But for men, it's also emotional, mental, it's control, it's coercion, it's all these other things that leave a much deeper mark and that men cannot speak about. So I started advocating for men. I started a petition, a global petition, to include men in domestic violence data, because men have never been asked
Yeah. Yeah.
if this is what their experience is. So there's no statistics, there's no information. It's like they're being completely excluded from this important conversation about domestic violence.
This is so heavy for me, because as you're talking, I'm reliving moments in my life where, in all honesty, like I could say I was being abused, and I don't think I realized it in the moment. I think, especially in romantic relationships, you think it might just be conflict or an argument or whatever the case may be, but when it's systematic or when it's a pattern, it's almost as if like, wow, I think I'm being abused. And abuse, it comes in many different shapes. It's not just, as you mentioned, physical or verbal. It could just be neglect as well. You know what I mean? It could be financial abuse.
Absolutely.
So it, when you discover this, in your journey in dealing with men, and men are breaking down, do you see any hope for men? In what you see these men breaking down, like I could understand how men feel like they have no hope. Like there's no one I
Yeah.
could turn to. I don't know what I'm doing. This is just the way society is. And with the way things are going, do men have a chance? Because no disrespect to women, some of them are preconditioned to be a certain way. And especially in romantic relationships, what chance do we have?
That's a very tough question, because I would love to say, like, of course there's hope. And I know sometimes it doesn't look like there is, but I do see an awakening. I do see June being Men's Health Month being louder and louder. I see people starting to listen and share online, like some of my followers. So I have seen improvements. And do you know how where I get my fuel from? The more people I piss off, the more angry I make them, the more I'm like, this is exactly what I need to be doing. And I need to be saying this louder for everyone in the back. So it's just the more hate I get and the more resistance I get. And I know people who are doing the same kind of work, and we're all in the same boat. We're just like, this is not going to shut us up. This is going to make us be even louder. So I have a son who's going to be 18 this year, and I'm not giving up. And I'm not going to say there's no hope, because there has to be hope, right? I think, things happened. I think the pendulum swung the other way and it went too far. And I think we got to bring it in the middle, right? And I think it's possible, because look at the things that have happened in our society. So of course, change is possible. It's not easy. Sometimes it takes longer. But I think with social media and with us being so much more connected, things happen way faster than they did before.
So Kat, you lived in 3 different countries, right? You were
Yes.
born and raised in Europe.
Yes.
You live in Canada now,
Yes.
and then what was the other country
I
you
lived in
lived?
Austria. So I lived
Oh,
in Poland and Austria
okay.
and
So
Europe. Yeah.
in Europe, what have you noticed with like men and how men are from the different countries, different cultures that you've experienced? Like what would you say would be different between American men or North American men and European men in this regard? Or is there no difference?
It's a little bit hard for me to tell because I was a lot younger. So I looked at the world very differently because I came here when I was a teen. So it was like a different perception, and I have gone back. But what I find is the relationship dynamics in North America and in like Eastern European countries are very different. Like women and men have different roles. They have a different dynamic. There isn't so much fighting who's going to be, have control over the relationship. Like there's value to the man, there's value, yes, to the woman, and it's not a power struggle. And I just feel like even looking at the statistics, which there's very few of, but the most homicides to men, like the most homicides men by intimate partner in an intimate partner relationship is the US.
Wow.
That is the highest statistic out of the top 10 countries for men.
Let me ask you a different way. I mean, a lot of your clients you say are men or mainly men. I'm sure you have men from different cultures, right?
Yes.
And obviously, without revealing, intricate details about
Mhm.
the sessions, like what have you noticed? Have you noticed any trends with the different cultures and how men are when it comes to emotions and looking for help and support?
I think the silence in men is across the board. I think it's a cultural, religious. It's just programming for men to be silent across all cultures. I think there's difference in the way that men have support with other men. I think some cultures, men are more allowed to like hug other men,
Yeah.
be more friendly with other men, have like deeper connections. Whereas like in other cultures, you're like judged for you got
Yeah.
to go out with the bros on, only have beer and not talk about anything meaningful. So I think those are important because it gives men more support and deeper connections in certain cultures where it's more allowed and more acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, along those lines, I mean, I think Logical Genius was being politically correct, but I want to talk specifically about Black men and what they go through. Of course, not only just being a male, but being a Black man. Do you find that in your journey that Black men suppress more, or do you feel like it's even across the board?
I would have to say that it's a tiny bit more in what I've noticed. I think there's a sense of strength and pride that you don't want to compromise. And I think it makes it a little tiny bit difficult. Do I have like a wide spectrum? Like I have thousands of clients, but it's still like such a small piece of the globe. So my experience is not really a reflection, but I would say a tiny bit more. What do
Okay.
you think about that?
I think for me personally, I think it's a challenge, especially with just social stereotypes that are out there and the perception that you got to upkeep to be a Black man, and then the definition of what that actually means. I was talking to HLS the other day, and talking about how someone thought that I was homosexual because I dressed nice. And it's like, wait, what? Just because I dress nice, I'm homosexual, But I rock braids, and I guess the expectation is I'm supposed to be talking yo, 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 and whatever it may be. So you're fighting that stereotype of color, and then of course the just power structure of being a man, which you're supposed to kind of be able to handle because you are a man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I don't. I get the angle I was taking, not only just that with race, but culturally. Like, right, for me, I'm Asian American, and in the Asian community as a whole, at least in my culture, there's not a lot of like emotional conversations, right? So even generally for men and women in general, family household, whatever. Like I was having this conversation the other day. I'm like, it sounds weird, but like I can't remember the last time I hugged my brothers. Right? I have three brothers. I can't remember the last time I hugged them, other than being in a funeral situation or some depressing situation. But I have friends, cousins, so in HL. So when I see them, I hug them all the time. So even within those cultures, you have already that dynamic of like, emotional, keep to yourself, keep everything to yourself, and then now on top of that, add the whole layer of masculinity, or that, the expected gender roles that men are supposed to play within that culture. Like it's like a layer on top of another layer, and which is, it's crazy, right? It's crazy, and it's confusing in some instances. Like, at least for me, where like I grew up in a traditional Asian household, but I grew up in America with American values and American culture. So in some instances, they're at odds, right? And that's always the case with people from different cultural backgrounds, or if your parents were immigrants or whatever. And it's just, I don't know. Like I was just curious to see, like, or to see what you've seen in your experience and your work around that, and see if you can shed some light on why that is. And there's never really a right answer, but that's why I brought that question up. Why I was asked that question.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's culture, sometimes it's religious, and sometimes it's generations. I think if you look at generations, like the boomers, they didn't hug their kids, right? Generation X, we were just left to be outside. Like, who hugged us? Who told us that we were loved? Like, it didn't happen often. And now, like, we raise our children differently. So I think that gap, that the saying I love yous, and like the physical touch and the hugging and the safety and the expression of love, and having these, deep conversations and asking children about feelings, this is new. Like, if you're my generation, I'm a Generation X, I'm 47. We didn't have that growing up. So we all had to create this for the next generations. So I think that has a lot to do with it too.
Are you seeing that shift though? Actually, that was one of my questions, what the generational like changes, right? Are you starting to see that trend where you're right? Years ago, it was even maybe worse, and men can't say anything, right? And now, you know, that like mental health and all of that in general is coming to light.
Yes.
And are you seeing that trend now a lot more?
Yes, and I'm so lucky that I have I have two adult daughters, and then I have my son who's almost 18, and I see the way he's with his friends, and it's so fucking amazing because they hug each other and they talk about deep stuff. And if one of them breaks up with his girlfriend, they go to his house, and they don't go out drinking. They sit there in the basement and they talk to him for hours, and they make him laugh. And you know what I mean? I feel like they have such deeper connections, and they're allowed to show their emotions more, and they're allowed to be more sensitive without being called a homosexual. So I do see the shift in the new generations, right? But I still see, like, who I'm dealing with are the older people, and they're still really just stuck in between of not feeling like they can, because they were taught for so long not to. They were taught to be quiet. They were taught to not show emotion, to not complain. So it's just really difficult, if this is how you grow up, to all of a sudden change.
So I would be remiss if I didn't ask this before transitioning. You mentioned your studies and your studies in healing energy. If there was someone out there with this trauma that needs to be healed, what would you say is the first step in that healing journey?
I would say learn to regulate your nervous system. I think that is key. I think learning the difference between when you're in flight or fight or when you're in a relaxed state is key, because you need to know what you're looking for when you're trying different modalities. If you're going to try meditation, if you're going to try breath work, if you're going to try anything to regulate your nervous system, or like vagus nerve activations, you need to know what feeling you're looking for. And most of us are living in flight or fight, and we don't realize it because it becomes our baseline. And do you know what happens when you're in flight or fight? You don't heal, right? Your body's sending all the blood to the organs that we need to survive and to run from a predator and to live and to function. So it doesn't allow for proper digestion. It doesn't go and heal tissue. It doesn't help your mind relax. It doesn't store memory. Like the cortisol just affects your whole body, and that's the stress hormone that we release. So I would say the basic, like the first thing you start with is learning to regulate your nervous system and to feel safe in your body. And you can do that through a variety of ways. And you know what? You can do that by being held by someone for like 10 minutes and getting a cuddle and just really sinking into your body. You know, that feeling where you're about to fall asleep and you're so relaxed, but you're awake? That's the feeling that we should be looking for. because that changes everything.
Thank you. Well, we are about to change everything up in this podcast episode right here. And we are about to transition into the next part of the program. So, Logical Genius, please explain to Kat what's about to happen next.
So, Kat, thank you again for being on the show. You've heard past episodes. We're now going to transition into the game show aspect of our podcast. And in this next segment, we, SoSo Juv, HLS, and myself, are going to present to you our list of the reasons why men stay silent for abuse. Each of us will present our top 5 reasons to you. You get to decide which one of us goes first and presents our list. We don't know each other's list. I have no idea what HLS has to say. I have no idea what SoSo Juv has to say. And you get to decide at the end of it which one of us has the best list. Simple, right?
Yep, I'm so excited.
All right. And HLS, go ahead and explain to Kat what is the criteria for judging.
So when you're dealing with these men, like you mentioned, you touch their face, you give them these soothing, this warm environment, men feel touched. There's a criteria to how you do certain things. For this show, there's none of that.
None.
Nada.
You might choose me because I greeted you first on this episode. And that could be the only reason.
Okay.
You might choose me because you might be able to empathize with my list.
Okay.
And you might choose me because my list is the most logical and most sane list of the 3.
But first, Kat, first and foremost, you get to choose who goes first.
I'm going to pick you, HLS.
Ooh.
Okay. Here we go, Kat. Yeah. So
because I believe in you. I believe in you.
Okay, Kat.
Oh, man.
Don't stop believing.
Oh man. So this one, like I said, as I was coming up with my list, I just started to really think. Without further ado, at number 5, men stay silent in abuse because they're in denial. When you speak up about abuse, it makes it real. And when you put it in the atmosphere, it's like something you have to deal with. But if you deny it's happening, you just put your head in the sand and you have to worry about it. And number 4, men think it's temporary. Oh, this just happened one time and won't happen again. You don't realize there might be a pattern to this abuse. So I think it's temporary. Oh, it just happened one time. My wife punched me one time. My boss asked me to stay late one time, or we're just a busy season now. I'm not going to get overtime. It's fine. It's a short limit of time. It's temporary. And number 3, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to admit that I'm being abused. I don't want to tell my boys. You've heard the show before. If I tell Logical Genius and SoSo Juv for being abused, they'll kill me endlessly. It adds to the abuse, Kat. I don't want to do it. And number 2, it's the devil you do know versus the devil you don't. Right? I'm being abused at work, but maybe I won't get another job. I'm being abused in my relationship, but maybe I won't find another girlfriend. I'll just deal with this for a little bit, or thinking we could get past it. Things are a rough patch. I'll just deal with this and hope that tomorrow's a new day. And the number 1 reason men stay silent and abuse, Kat, we don't realize we're being abused. We don't know it. We just think this is the way it works. This is just how she is. This is just how the job is. This is how life is. This is how society is. We just don't realize it's actual abuse. And that, Kat, is my top 5 of why men stay silent in abuse. Who would you like to hear from next?
I hear you. The Logical Genius, please.
Okay, Kat. Thank you. HLS, thank you for that list.
Be prepared to be bored, Kat. Be prepared to be bored.
I think she just woke up from that list. I'm not sure she was the first 4. But no, all kidding aside, though, this is a very serious topic.
It is.
We try to make light of topics here, not to say that they're not serious, but we always try to bring a comical aspect if we can. But this is a very, very touchy subject to a lot of people. And I think there's going to be a lot of overlap, to be honest with you, between our lists, because I feel like in looking at this list, you can take the angle of a lot of this could apply to anybody, right? And how do you narrow this list down to say it's specifically like a male thing, a man thing? And it was hard. It was hard. But here is my list. At number 5, I think a lot of this, especially when it comes to like the physical abuse, I think people don't say it, and I think this also happens for women as well. But you don't want to put the other person who you care about, who probably abused you, in a compromised position. Maybe it's jail, maybe it's punishment or something. You are somehow protecting your abuser because you still feel a certain way about them. You still love them. It could be a parent, it could be a sibling, it could be a friend, it could be whomever. And you're doing it to protect them in at least in your mind, right? You don't want to get them in trouble. It's not that serious, right? So that to me is number 5. At number 4, I think men don't do it because I don't think anyone would take them seriously. I think they would say, "Oh, there's no way. There's no way that person that you're 6'3" and this person's 5, whatever. Like, there's no way that person. No, I don't believe you, right? That's some of the things that men may go to, right? The social expectations, maybe, right, or the cultural expectations. At number 3, if people do believe you, your fear of the being shamed or embarrassed. Like, you don't want to put your business out there, right? Because ultimately speaking about it and talking to, whether it's talking to you, Kat, or somebody else, or somebody you can trust, or a support group, whatever, it means putting your personal life out there to be, whether it's judged or ridiculed, like someone's going to look at it, and that fear of judgment or the embarrassment, like, oh man, I can't believe that happened to me. Um, at number 2, I agree with excuse me, with HLS, but I put it a little bit higher. Denial, right? No, this doesn't happen to me. Yeah, whatever. No. Like, I think when you deny it, it doesn't become reality, right? And I agree with that. Like, if as much as you deny it, you at least try to play that mind game within yourself to say it didn't happen to me. Now this is whatever. This is my imagination, or maybe I looked at it wrong. So you're finding excuses to kind of shift it away from you. And at number 1 is, I feel like we hear this all, right? It's be a man, take off that skirt, or you ain't got no balls, man up, right? It's masculinity, right? Men are expected, at least traditionally, are expected to act and be and push things under the rug and kind of get over things without complaining about it, right? You're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be able to go through everything that life can throw at you and be a man and toughen up and take it like a champ, right? I saw the other day Instagram post. I can't remember who it came from. It was like a bunch of like commentary, like, oh, men do this and we muscle through, and this happens, and we take the high road, and this happens, we always overcome. Like, again, building on that masculinity. And I think that to me is like the number 1 reason why, because I'm a man. That's why I don't say anything, because I'm a man. And that's my list, Kat.
Thank you.
All right, Kat, it's your boy in the building. I'm glad that you're still with us after listening to, I won't bash it yet, because this is a topic that's intriguing, very intriguing, and this is my 5 cents on the 5 reasons why men stay silent about abuse. And at number 5, there was an album that came out around 2020 by Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale and the High Steppers. And I truly believe that it's one of the most important albums in hip hop, because it talks about the cycle of abuse in men, and particularly with rappers, and how they present themselves. And part of that narrative was with the family dynamics, that, you had situations where your uncle who was abusing you was the one that was walking you home from school. And he was supposed to be the guardian, your safety net that was supposed to take care of you, but behind closed doors, he's abusing you. At number 4, I have machismo. I came up in the era where Scarface, Goodfellas, Casino, the tough guy, was very prevalent. And like, if you wanted to show and prove, you had to be out there. But no one could tell me now, if you watch Scarface today, that Scarface wasn't abused as a child. I mean, the fact that he even lusted after his sister, but what everybody thinks of is say hello to my little friend and the guns and all of that stuff. When really and truly, Scarface was, he needed a hug. He needed your hands on his face. That's what Scarface needed. He did. At number three, oh man, you have avoidance. And there's keywords or phrases that are out there. It's not worth it. Don't sweat the small stuff, right? So you let those small things go by, right? Happy wife, happy life. So like I'm not even gonna bother because you know what? It's gonna engage into this conflict, and I really don't want this conflict. But really, what you're doing is perpetuating the mass amount of abuse that is happening to you because it's part of the manipulation. At number two, I have the other spectrum of the machismo, and that's the emasculation. Very much so you'll hear in hip hop culture, and even to this day, like, and we've transformed it from no homo to no diddy to whatever it may be, but we definitely try not to really put out there our real feelings for fear of just the group censure in emasculating yourself. And at number one, I would have to agree with HLS. Don't even know that being abused. It was crazy. I went back to my parents' house and there's a box that has like a bunch of hearts. It's a white box with a bunch of hearts on it, and it has all of my high school like notes with my girlfriend from high school. And I happened to open it up and started reading them. And I said, "Oh my gosh, little SoSo, you were in an abusive relationship and you had no idea." In high school, I had no idea that I was totally, totally being abused by some of the words that were put out there. You're ugly. Why would you ever break up with me? Because no one else would date you. And these were real things that were written to me. And I absolutely had no idea that that actually was just the beginning of my abuse cycle. And that right there, Kat, is my 5 cents on the topic. What's going to happen is next week we're going to get into what we call what cross examination, where
Cross
we like,
examination.
yeah, poke a little holes into each other's list as we try to persuade your favor as you decide who is our third place loser and who is our champion for the week. So until then, this is our 5 cents. Peace.